folks will go visit it again, and we'll get all the info, but won't crash it. So much more is happening on the privacy front. You're looking into so many facets of Big Brother's offensive against free humanity. What is front and center on your radar right now? What's the biggest growing threat against liberty right now?
Well, I think all this RFID stuff that we talked about when we were researching Spy Chips, our book, has all come to pass. We're seeing radio frequency devices or remotely trackable microchips being put into driver's licenses. This is happening in border states all over the country. If you border on Canada or Mexico, there's a good chance that your state offers something called an enhanced driver's license, which is a driver's license that can be read from 30 or even 60 feet away by somebody in a moving car driving down the street. They can read it right through your wallet if you're stupid enough to have one of these things in your wallet. The State Department is promoting it as a way to replace your passport. Why bother going through the expense and bother getting a passport if you can just get your driver's license to serve as a border crossing card into Canada or Mexico? So if your state offers an enhanced driver's license, say no to it. If you know anybody who has gotten one of these things, encourage them to cut it up, send it back, get rid of it, because they're trackable. And here's where it gets even weirder, Alex. If you got one of those things in your pocket or in your purse, and you walk into a Walmart store, and you walk up to the Fruit of the Loom briefs hanging there in the underwear shelf of the men's section, I kid you not, Walmart's underwear shelf can read your driver's license through your pocket.
Well, they admit, and now they're saying, oh, well, the RFID in your driver's license, you'll pay now in the future soon, and you'll wave your wallet or you'll wave your cell phone, and the new iPhones are coming out with a chip in them where even if you don't want to, they're going to be able to do this. And they admit thieves are now stealing all this, so their answer is, well, you'll pay by chip and face scan. And so that's what they're forcing in. Now also with the airports, they're rolling out the new retina scanners, as we knew they would do inside the body scanners. But don't worry, they microwave you faster now. You walk through as they microwave, and it retina scans you passively. It's so easy.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. So we're taking all of the, essentially everything that individual freedom activists have been railing about sort of in our own corners here. All of the biometrics, you got people worried about that. All of the national ID card stuff, we've got people concerned about that, the RFID, and now the cell phone. And what I tell people nowadays is that with 80 to 90% cell phone penetration, that means you've got virtually everybody carrying one of these things. The cell phone is no longer really a phone, if you think about it. It's a camera, it's a video camera, it's a listening device, it's a microphone, it's a tracking device.
I call it your guardian devil. It's a guardian devil. You know, God has an angel watching and recording. It's your little guardian devil, and it fries you and gives you cancer while it spies on you.
That's a good way of putting it. And, you know, I got to say this because on everybody's iPhone, what is the picture there? It's an apple with a bite taken out of it. You know, folks, pay attention here. That is the symbol straight out of the Garden of Eden, and it symbolizes the deal that humanity struck with Satan. What were people told? They were said, don't eat from the fruit of that tree of knowledge, because if you do, you'll surely die. And people said, oh, well, okay, and they ate, you know, Adam and Eve ate the apple, and Satan said, all right, well, you made your trade. You get to surely die on the basis of this knowledge, but I'm going to give you all the technology you could ever use, and you will have the powers of God. And that's what we're screwing around with today. You know, you don't have to look too far to see Fukushima and radiation meltdowns. You know the drill, and everybody listening, of course, if they listen to your show, they're well informed. All of that stuff ties into a deal that was struck way back when in the garden, and we're carrying around these devices that have that big honking apple symbol with the bite taken out of it. It blows my mind.
And by the way, even if people don't believe in God and the devil, I do, I know you do, the elites do. I mean, the symbol of for apple is an apple with the bite out, the tree of good and evil, that knowledge. And it's here, and they're using it to totally control us, and they kill us while we get the knowledge. So they're physically killing us, and they're telling us, we're killing you, because these devils always have to tell you in a code what they're going to do to you.
Yeah, and, you know, we're getting irradiated by the cell phone towers. A new report out from Europe saying we ought to pull all of the Wi-Fi and all of the cell phone towers out of and away from schools because they're so bad for children. You know, this stuff is killing us. The reality is it is, and you know, but it's always sold to you with a benefit. There's a great quote. We opened our book Spy Chips with a quote by C.P. Snow, who was a writer for the New York Times. And he said technology is a queer thing. It gives you great gifts with one hand and stabs you in the back with the other. So that's kind of the direction we're going.
CatherineAlbrecht.com. Stay strong. We're all praying for you, and hopefully I can get you up for a full hour in the next few weeks. God bless you, and we're glad you're going to beat this thing. We're all praying for you, Katherine.
I'd love it. Thanks, and I start Saturdays on the 18th at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Awesome.
Eastern.
Awesome. Folks, find out more at GCNlive.com. Thank you, Katherine. Thank you for joining us for live coverage from Bilderberg 2011. We're joined by Paul Joseph Watson, who is right outside the Global Elite meeting place in St. Moritz, Switzerland. These are the people, the heads of the global megabanks, British, Dutch royalty, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, attending. We have more of their inside agenda that we're going to be going over here. And this is so important because these are the people that control the parliaments, control the leadership of our Congress, our House and Senate. They're the folks, we've gotten their minutes from decades ago, how they covertly set up the euro, how they sold governments derivatives to implode them. They're the people that want the carbon taxes to shut down in the industrial societies. These are the bad guys, my friends. And now Obama has pledged, as we told you weeks ago from our Bilderberg sources, he would do trillions more to, quote, bail out Greece. That means give the private banks that made the derivative fraud and got government to get involved with it. That means giving the mega banks that are making record profits more of our tax money. We've seen a lot of big developments the last few days at Bilderberg. And joining us to go over those developments is Paul Joseph Watson of Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, and, of course, Aaron Dykes, also working in our operation there. Paul Watson, you've got the floor. Break down the spectrum of reportage.
Hello, Alex. Good to be back. Yeah, one thing that I failed to mention earlier was the fact that quite early on in proceedings this morning, there was an activist, I think he was associated with We Are Change Switzerland, who spray-painted graffiti on the road that led up to the entrance to the Bilderberg Hotel. And he basically spray-painted things like, you know, you're not welcome in Switzerland, get out, Bilderberg scum, things like that. And obviously he was approached by the police, but because the spray paint that he was using could easily wash off, and in fact it did later wash off with a constant rain, they didn't arrest him or detain him, so he had a pretty long conversation with the police, but eventually they just had to walk away because of this technicality in the law. So a lot of Bilderberg members arrived to this message of, you know, get out of Switzerland, Bilderberg scum, New World Order scum, so that was a nice welcome for them.
Going over the incredible information that Tucker has now released, more of their agenda, and we've looked it up. It is in the Swiss papers. The Prime Minister is saying that it's not good to have them there and that the Bilderberg group wants to destroy their sovereignty. And we have the equivalent of one of their top congressmen saying arrest Henry Kissinger because there's arrest warrants out for him out of France and other areas. We also have other government leaders saying they don't want them there. So very exciting things happening. There's a lot more in the agenda. They want to have a larger war in the Middle East, and we're going to go over some of that in a moment. But breaking down the fake bomb scare today and other things that are happening, this report that a Bilderberg person flew into the airport and then had some type of medical emergency. Paul, cover the waterfront for us.
Well, the fake bomb scare obviously occurred when we had left our car at the top of the hill and walked down to the bottom to get some better shots of the cars as they were arriving. Then Aaron went back up to the top of the hill and the road was blocked, and he was told that there had been a bomb scare involving some tubing that the police had found and that they had arrested 2 people. So it took about an hour before the blockade was lifted, which was, you know, the blockade itself was very brief, which led us to believe, and other people that we've spoken to agree, or the journalists, that this was because a very important official was arriving at that time and they wanted to widen the security area to make sure that, you know, that elitist wasn't bothered, because the whole thing was lifted so quickly that it was obviously a spur-of-the-moment thing. And
let me stop you, because this needs to be added to our report that's one of the top links up on Drudge. You're telling me, was this from the police who told you it was the bomb scare? I know that's on video. But specifically that they say they did make arrest for tubing? I mean, that's huge news. Arrest made at Bilderberg for supposed pipe bombs? Is that what you're saying?
We were told by other journalists that 2 people had been arrested. We can't confirm that, and there was no information as to their identity, but that was what numerous people who were there at the time said. So we don't know for sure whether that's true, but that's what was circulating at the time.
Well, we'll call the police station. Continuing with other things that are unfolding, what do you think is most striking from Tucker's moles that we've learned that's on the agenda? Wanting to keep the depression going, I think, is the big one. Wanting to have a World War III event in the Middle East. This is huge.
Yeah, just before I get onto that, one final point on those arrests. There were several people who told us that these 2 individuals who were arrested had previously had no affiliation with the journalists who were there the day before. So it seems that these 2 individuals were unknown to everyone else who was there on the scene. So that obviously brings up the possibility that they were provocateurs. But
well, we saw that happen in 2008 in Chantilly with Obama and Hillary meeting secretly, and that was later confirmed they were there, that they had this guy with a video camera videotaping all of us, acting like a cop. Then he got, quote, busted for a gun, and they showed the media this, and then they let him go. I mean, come on. And again, this is all part of a way to demonize in front of the other cops that see protesting as bad.
Yeah. We couldn't confirm those 2 arrests, but the police chief told Aaron directly that there was a bomb scare, so that is 100% confirmed. Getting on to what Tucker found out about the agenda, obviously covered in Kurt Nimmo's article, which is on Infowars.com, is the fact that they're outraged, and this was a familiar theme at last year's conference, about the fact that they're getting increasing amounts of scrutiny from the alternative media and the Patriot movement. I was talking to Tucker about an hour ago, and he was telling me that one of the reasons they want to prolong the recession, and it's obviously not the only reason, was that they want to keep the middle class down. They want to keep the bums, low down, so they can't afford to travel and they can't afford to focus on Bilderberg because they're too concerned about putting food on the table. So similar to what they said last year about, their disgust at people who are actually able to afford to travel to these different countries in which they meet. That was another familiar theme coming out today, according to Jim Tucker.
Well, that before we continue, that's what austerity is. That's what the head of Goddard Space Center has said. That's what the head of the UN Climate Program, Maurice Strong, has said, and Ted Turner and Prince Philip, and in all their reports, is you will only be allowed to be in the area that you are working in. You'll have to get special credits to travel outside, special authorization to fly on an airplane. And now, as you know, in England, they're showing British school children these government-funded and corporate-funded cartoons where it shows the future in 10 years where the woman's going, it's my husband's birthday. I've got the credits for him to eat meat once a year. He's not allowed to travel out of the zone, but I am because I'm a social worker. And people watch the videos and think they're a joke about some tyranny. They're not. The sociologists and the psych warfare experts are just showing this to kids like it's normal. And we've played those here. People think that's a joke. No, it's not a joke. Paul, tell folks about this.
Well, I mean, that all comes out of the Royal Society and these big think tanks in the UK. They've openly announced that they want this plandopolis where only the elite and the rich will be able to drive cars, where meat will be rationed as it was in communist China, even as recently as the 80s, and where basically the living standards of the West are lowered to a second and third world status as this post-industrial revolution takes hold.
And that's what the tyrants do. The Russians had meat. The Chinese had meat. They do it to make you line up so they have the control. And that was later declassified. They know. That's why Stalin wouldn't let the Ukrainians and others grow their own food and tens of millions starved to death. They banned your own garden. That's what the Food Safety Act and Codex Alimentarius is about. Go ahead.
Well, in the Plandopolis clip, which is coming out of these elite think tanks, they present a global food council which will decide all your rations, all your meat, all your vegetables, everything that you're allowed to get. And that, as you just said, harks back to the Stalinist era. It harks back to Maoist China, where, people didn't just have to line up to get meat. Meat was a special treat. And
Monsanto has said that's why they're infecting everything with their GMO, because in the future, well, it's already happened. Almost every major corn, wheat, you name it, is infected with their genetics. Even if you didn't have their seed, it gets into the other plants. And if they find 1% of their genetics, then you're SWAT teamed. So you won't be able to have a farm or ranch because it's copyrighted, it's patented. You won't be able to grow anything because they've infected everything. And then the courts